When did you meet someone who could make the devil cry? My mother-in-law stood between my twins' hospital beds and said, choose which one gets the liver transplant. I'm only paying for one. Agatha had been my mother-in-law for 10 years and she hated me from the start. I married her son Calvin when she'd already picked out a rich heiress for him, and she never forgave me for ruining her plans. For 8 years, she controlled us with her money, holding the twins' trust funds and medical insurance over our heads. Then 2 years ago, Calvin died, saving my life. A truck ran a red light heading straight for my side of the car, and Calvin swerved at the last second to take the hit himself. He died instantly while I survived with some injuries, and Agatha blamed me for it. She had been waiting for the perfect moment to make me pay, and it came exactly 2 years later. The twins got into a car accident on the anniversary of Calvin's death, and it caused massive internal bleeding that destroyed both their livers. They needed transplants within 24 hours, or they would die. Agatha arrived at the hospital carrying a briefcase full of documents she'd already prepared. Documents that gave her control over who got the transplant since she held their medical trust. The twins were both dying, and there was only one liver available. She walked straight to where I sat crying between their beds, and pulled out the forms with a smile I'd never seen before. She looked me in the eyes and finally said what she'd been waiting 2 years to say. You took my son, now choose which grandchild lives. I sat frozen after Agatha's ultimatum, unable to choose between my dying children. For the next 20 hours, I moved between Iris's bed and Dean's bed, holding their hands while Agatha stayed in the room, sending hourly texts asking if I'd made my choice yet. I just spent those hours looking at their faces, trying to find some answer that would never come. The doctors even reminded me the donor liver would go to another patient if I didn't choose soon, but I physically couldn't sign those papers. By the 18th hour, I was vomiting from stress in the hospital bathroom. Time passed with me unable to choose between my children while Agatha's presence loomed over us like death itself. After 20 hours, the twins suddenly woke up and reached across the gap between their beds to hold hands. Iris looked at me with confused eyes and whispered, Mommy, why is Grandma making you cry? That's when Agatha stepped forward and delivered her final threat. 4 hours left or you lose them both. Watching my conscious children hold hands while their grandmother demanded I choose which one died was the moment I knew I couldn't comply anymore. I ran to find the transplant surgeon and begged him for another option. He reluctantly admitted the liver could be split between both twins, since they were small enough to each survive with half. I immediately called my lawyer, who discovered a clause in Calvin's original trust stating the funds must be used for the welfare of all beneficiaries, not just one. Within 2 hours, we filed an emergency injunction against Agatha to force her to pay for the split liver surgery for both twins. The judge approved our emergency injunction within an hour and ordered Agatha to pay for the split liver surgery. Both twins were wheeled into surgery together, and 8 hours later, the surgeon emerged with good news. The transplant was successful for both children. Agatha's control over the trust was suspended, and suddenly I could breathe again. For the next few days, I sat between their recovery beds, watching their steady breathing and monitoring their improving vitals. The doctors assured me both twins would make full recoveries, and for the first time since the accident, I believed everything would be okay. My relief lasted exactly 1 week before everything fell apart. Dean suddenly began rejecting his portion of the liver, and when I demanded answers, I discovered Agatha had used her position as a hospital board member to delay the anti-rejection medications. She stood in his doorway as his condition worsened and delivered her cruel verdict. You gambled with both of their lives instead of guaranteeing one would survive, and now you might lose them both because of your greed. The doctors tried to get the medications, but Agatha had used her power to block them with paperwork that would take days to process. Meanwhile, Dean was rapidly slipping away while Iris cried helplessly from the next bed. Just as Dean was dying, Calvin's best friend arrived with a safety deposit box he'd found. Inside was a video of Calvin exposing how his mother had been stealing from the twins' trust fund for years, complete with proof. The hospital board immediately reversed Agatha's orders and rushed the anti-rejection medications to Dean, while the police arrived to arrest Agatha. Faced with prison time for embezzlement, she agreed to pay for everything the twins needed, and in 2 days, new liver matches appeared in the donor system. Both children received new liver transplants that their bodies accepted. The twins survived but spent months recovering from both surgeries and nightmares. Agatha is serving time in prison, taking with her any chance of the children knowing their grandmother. 2 years later at Calvin's grave, Iris asked, Daddy kept us together, right, Mommy? I nodded, knowing we'd saved their lives but lost their father's family forever.